Morena koutou, and apologies for the finance meeting running over and this being a little bit late. I'll just open us with a karakia. Ko ranganui ki runga, ko papatua nuku ki raro, ko tātou taira tangata, ki wanganui, ti hei mauri ora. Sky Father above, Mother Earth below, all of us in the middle, breath of life. So, very warm welcome to the extraordinary meeting of the Audit and Risk Committee. So we don't have any apologies. Is there any declarations of conflicts of interest in regards to today's meeting? There are none. We'll move into reports and offer a very warm welcome. We're lucky to have our auditor here, Debbie Pereira. So it's nice to see you again, and great that you could be here for this report, and welcome, Beth. So I know you've done a lot of work in preparing this. So Beth, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning to the rest of the councillors and the team that are in the chambers with us today. So this morning I will be presenting our draft annual report. Before I commence and go walk through the annual report, I would just like to acknowledge and extend a thank you to the team here at Council, including Debbie and her audit team, for all the work that has gone on behind the scenes to get us to this point. I'm very proud of the efforts that both parties have put in. It's been a very challenging year, and yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to take the report as read, and I'm open to taking questions, any questions that you have as we go through. So I guess without further ado, I'll go through the draft annual report that we have in front of you, and go over the key changes that have gone into it. I guess, like I mentioned before, this has been quite a challenging year with the late adoption of the 22 annual report. The impact that it's had on the work that we've been able to do for this year's annual report has meant that our financial management system was rolled over later than what we would usually have done. So effectively, that process would take place in December, giving the team 6 months to do the capitalisation process. Due to the circumstances flowing on from the annual report 22, the team were only had a small window time frame to prepare the work for the final audit, which began on the 22nd of September. Main changes in terms of the accounting standards that we've had to apply to this year's annual report. PBE FRIS 48, which is in respect to how we report and disclose on the financial, on our service performance measures. A lot of work has gone on behind the scenes in that, and Sarah has taken the lead in that space. And as she's mentioned previously, has reached out to our peers, did a lot of research, had discussions with audit in terms of what we needed to disclose. So it was a lot of additional wording and linkages within the service performance measures to the LTP that needed to be reflected in that area. Another accounting standard that we adopted for this year's annual report was the PBE IPSAS 41 changes, which is in respect to how we recognise and measure our financial instruments. So financial instruments covers how we disclose cash and cash equivalents, our debtors, and our other financial assets, in particular for our council, for Taurua District Council, we had to change the way in which we recognised our LGFA borrower notes, which initially we recognised them at face value, and with these accounting changes, we needed to recognise them at fair value. Other change which we needed to consider was the loan to the Pukaha, which community loan. Again, that is nice at face value, but we need to recognise it at amortised cost. For those of you that don't understand the amortised cost definition, it's recognising principal and interest deductions off the full amount of the loan at the date that we recognised it. Hope that makes sense. Yes. Right. So I'll start with the front end of the drafting report. So the front end is make sure you give everybody time to go to the front end of the report. Sorry, this is historically has been our wordy section. This is where our service performance measures are, all of our governance reports, NEAR and CE reports. So this year, the team wanted to create more of an engagement with the community. So I'm going to use my own husband as an example. So we wanted to be able to reach out and engage with the standard Corey, who typically would not pick up an annual report because he would look at it and go, there are so many words in here and there are too many numbers, and he would just not even glance at it. So the team led by Carsten from communications, so thanks also needs to go to him. He's taken the lead on this with working in conjunction with Sarah. We've gone through and we've tried to cut out all the wordiness and replace it with eye-catching, engaging infographics and the facts about the district. So as we flick through the pages, you can see on page 10 of my annual report copy, which I think might be page 11. Oh, 13, sorry. You can, we've got our district at a glance, and it just gives a breakdown of great facts about our district. Just really short facts that will capture the attention of different various demographics that make up our district, which the team felt was quite important to be able to engage with. We've replaced a lot of our wordiness with more infographics, and along with these infographics, fun facts about where money has been spent, where money has come in, and the other aspects of our district that that you typically wouldn't associate with the district council. We've got the number of walkways our district has, the number of dogs that our district has registered, just a whole array of different topical points of interest for the reader. Nothing, but we move forward. Have we got any questions on that? If I'm too fast, I'm going through the annual report too fast.
No, look, no, you're doing great. I think I totally agree with you, and I can remember Monsignor Brian saying to me one day that some of these council reports should be used in hospital as anaesthetic because they would put people to sleep. And what you've done at the front end is this is the really key crunchy stuff. It talks about, what we've got. It gives people an overview, and we're a very large district, a very large district. And sometimes when we live in one town, we don't see and understand what's happening out at the coast or in other parts. And this gives people an understanding of just the level of work that staff and are managing, and where the costs lie. So look, I really commend this. We always talk about transparency, but this is sort of the next layer where people can see it, and then they can sort of think, wow, we've got 2,751 road signs that were replaced, and immediately I'm thinking, well, how many of those needed to be, and how many were vandalised? And we start, automatically diving down into cost and understanding. So really, really loved this section, and I think that as we go out with our communications, even councillors can be talking to these points and highlighting them. So yeah, well done.
So you believe it or not, our goal of minimising. Oh, sorry.
Believe it or not, our goal of minimising the front end, we managed to do that by removing the words, replacing them with infographics. However, as a result of the disclosures required under FRIS 48, we had to put those words back in. So bit of balance. If I move to I've discussed the service performance measures that were captured under FRIS 48. Sarah, do you think I need to add anything more in that area? No, you're happy? Okay, so we'll go straight to the financials. So comparing those two, the financials are on page 143 of your copy.
A couple of minutes just to make sure everyone's on that right page. It's a big scroll. You jump forward, it's a long intense take on. That's the only bit to catch up. Yeah, that's just like that.
Because, sorry, I did skip quite a few sections through the surface performance. I can go back to those. So with the financial statements, when I looked at what we've prepared for the draft annual report, I compared them back to what we presented to the Finance and Performance Committee on back in August at the 12th when we presented our 12-month report. So on page 143, which is a statement of comprehensive revenue and expense for the year ended 30 June 23, the main changes to this report is our reported surplus deficit from the 12-month report. So at 12 months, we'd reported a surplus of $21 million. And for the annual report, that has now reduced to a deficit of $205,000. Compared to annual plan, we had planned to be in surplus of $3.6 million. The main drivers for the change in the surplus I have identified is the grants and subsidies area. So that has gone down from what we reported at the 12-month mark by $4 million. And that's attributed by a prior year adjustment where we had to change the way that we'd recognise some revenue that we'd received in advance for Route 52. So that impacted the figures within the reported numbers here. These wouldn't have been captured at the 12-month report because these come out as a result of our year-end adjustments and processes. Within that too, we also have depreciation, which wasn't accounted for at the 12-month report because we hadn't finished our capitalisation process. So the depreciation is $18 million, so that reduced our surplus. And we also have the revaluations in there as well that also have an impact on what our total revenue and expense amount is. The next page, the statement of changes in equity. These weren't completed at the 12-month report, so this is why there is a change between what is in the annual report and what we had included at the 12-month report. So these are again part of the year-end adjustments as we do the annual report. Any questions from this? Is a pretty not as fun page. So then we go on to our financial position statement, which is the balance sheet, and this records all of our assets and liabilities and our equity. And so that's on page 145 of your report. Key changes here, which you can see have flown through from the income and expenditure statement. We can see that debtors has moved. So the debtors has moved $2 million, and that is as a result, it's gone up $2 million as a result of the team capturing and recognising revenue received in advance correctly in this financial year. A lot of movement within the classifications is just due to us doing the year-end adjustments. So for example, with our term deposits, they would all be kept at the 12-month report. No adjustments have been done yet, so they'll all be captured in either current assets or non-current assets, and through the reclassification recognition and identifying which assets are current assets and which ones are non-current. That's where the shift between the two areas lies. Does that make sense? So if for example, we go down to the current liabilities, 12-month report, we had recognised 6 million of non-current borrowings, and in the draft annual report, we've recognised 13 million. So if we go to the next page, under non-current liabilities, you'll see the borrowings, the non-current line. So we've apportioned the non-current portion of the total borrowings to the correct classification. So not really a change to the bottom dollar, but just a way in which we recognise them on the balance sheet.
Could I just ask in the adjustment for income received in advance, does that include some of the cyclone recovery funds as well? Yeah, as well as Route 52.
Sorry, what I should have touched upon, if we go back to page 143 on the revenue and expenses statement, our grants and subsidies received to date for actuals for the 23. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting to turn on my microphone. So if we go back to page 143, back to the revenue and expense statement, what I did forget to
cover off was the change between what we had planned and what we actually received in grants and subsidies. So you can see there we've got an additional $15 million of grants and subsidies compared to what was planned. And that is a result of funding that we've received from for the cyclone Gabrielle recovery costs, as well as Waka Kotahi funding. And then the operating expenditure, that has also increased, and that is due to increased contracting costs for the solutions contract. I don't mean to jump around a lot, but if I refer you to note 38, which is on page 217 of the annual report.
Mhm.
This is our major budget variances note. And within this note, there are explanations as to why we have deviated from what was planned to what we have actually reported. So if there are any questions that arise after you've read through the major budget variances, I'm happy to answer them. Right, we'll jump back around to back to page 146, the financial position. Is there any other questions in this area about our assets and liabilities?
Rolling, you're okay, Councillor Gilmore? Yep.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
trying to simplify the guts of it. And from what I've read and listened, Beth, are we better off this year than we were last annual report?
In terms of our financial,
Yeah. Particularly reflecting on the level of debt that we're carrying. I'm just trying to simplify. I mean, we could go line by line and understand it that way, and I'm just trying to get a feel for, are we actually financially worse off than your report from the previous year, or better off?
It's largely that it depends around your work plan and the sense of it. So I'm not sure you can quite compare the two, but Raj, if you've got a comment.
Through your worship, I think I get the crux of the question, but I think a better comparison would be against an annual plan, because that I think would show in terms of performance. So this is what we agreed with the community in the annual plan that we are doing, and how we're performing against the annual plan. So that's what, and I think what Beth has been walking through in terms of page 143 in comparison against the annual plan. So I guess looking at that performance, I think there's three things that I would say in terms of performance, highlight in terms of performance. It would be putting aside the additional revenue that we got from the cyclone, focusing on the expenditure line, because I think that's our focus in. I think the increase in expense in the operational spend of, we would say, the cost escalations that we face that were not budgeted for. We didn't expect the interest rates, the inflation to be that higher. So the contract cost related to delivering level of service a lot higher than what we budgeted for. So that, I think, was that I think is a key element. The second is aligned to that is interest costs. We budgeted a much lower interest cost in the annual plan compared to the actual interest costs that we received, and that's if I just look at the numbers there, it's a significant increase from the actual, to put aside the swap valuation. So I think that's something for us as we go into this annual plans for us to note. And I think the last one is, I think Beth touched on, which is the depreciation. The change in asset values drive the depreciation expense as well.
Oh, sorry, just while Roger's touching on the depreciation, you'll see if you compare the depreciation in this year's annual report compared to what we had planned. You'll recall from the 2022 annual report, we booked a fair value adjustment for our infrastructure assets at 30 June into our balance sheet. As a result of that, the depreciation that we had to post for the 23 financial year is based off the 2022 revaluation. So the costs on our balance or in our profit and loss this year are more than what we would expect, given the nature that we have with our unique relationship with our alliance contract. So depreciation this year is more than what it would be any other year.
Sorry, and just to add to Raj's comment around the interest expense, just a bit of some good news. Our interest expense costs haven't increased compared to what we had planned. We just haven't factored in the interest revenue received. So when we look at the current year actuals, and we offset the interest income against our interest expense, we're actually in line with what we had planned.
We happy?
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the insights that are being offered and the explanations, but if I was sitting here with my accountant and this was my business, at the end of the year, the bottom line is, have we done better this year than we did last year? Or, you know, have we got some worries coming up? I mean, I'm trying to simplify it. I do appreciate that it's very, very complex, and I appreciate annual plan versus, and I certainly recognise the amount of money that we've received that we would never have budgeted for, but that's based on obviously the activities that happen annually. But the bottom line is, what is our community going to see in this and know whether or not we're in good heart? It's a bit different to last year. I'm just trying to find a simple way.
The challenge is that in a business, you don't have agreed levels of service with your community. You can make those fast decisions and bits, but it is a lot harder depending on that work plan, is how I'd simply ask it. I know what you're asking. It is a tough one. If you went out to the community, are they happy? I guess for me, have we provided what we said we're going to provide, and have we done it for the amount of money that we said that we were going to do it? And the answer to that is no, and that is a largely around interest, inflation, and insurance, which everybody is struggling with. But look, it is a good question. I'll just get Sarah to make a comment before Councillor.
Your worship, to keep it simple, your balance sheet has seen an increase, a net positive increase from last year to this year. So yes, in simple terms, we are better off than we were last financial year.
I wanted to hear. Thank you very much.
Councillor Johns.
Yeah, you should just look at the total assets, about plus 4.5 million over last year. Rather than 8 and greater.
Right.
Worse isn't about 3.5 million.
Sarah?
1, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Total assets. It's about 4.5 million greater than last year.
Oh, I see.
And then 146 total liabilities.
Yeah.
For 8, maybe about 8 million.
Sorry, my apologies. that is a result of our fair value we booked at the 30 June. So your fair value assessment we booked for the 30 June 2022 for the infrastructure assets was higher than what we would have had any other year because we had to do the fair value adjustment. So you're right. I apologize. I was incorrect. It is a decrease. But if you went over if you removed the fair value adjustment from our equation, our balance sheet has increased for the 2 years. It gets messy with our infrastructure revaluation.
Use them.
Sorry,
You did.
I apologize.
Sorry, I asked.
No, look, it was a good question, Councillor Johns, and it is good that you can ask those crunchy questions and get the answer. Council finances are very, very complex. Yeah. Okay. Right. Thanks, Beth.
We start with the annual report. I don't have any comparisons to the 12 months report for the financial statements because, as I mentioned, those are year-end adjustments that we do. So we've got the statement of cash flows, which provides us with a breakdown with all of our sources of funding were allocated and where they came from throughout the year and how they were applied. Do we have any questions on that statement, that section? And then the next section is the whole council funding impact statement, which links to the group of activity financial statements reported in the service performance measures. And then we come across to the notes to the financial statements. So reflected in these notes is the policy change in respect to IPSAS 41 and the additional disclosures that we've had to include in terms of the financial instruments that we recognise within the account. So I'm not too sure whether you would know. Raj is telling me no. So what I will do is I'll finish that section off there. And then we'll go back to the service performance measures because how rude of me not to showcase the work that the team have put into making this more appealing to the community and to the user who's picked up the reports. So if we go to, I think it'll be about page 41, 42. Once everyone's there, and I can just highlight where we've just put in the new changes once everybody's there. And if you have any questions, then you can feel free to ask me. So as I mentioned, as a result of RIS 48, we've had to include additional disclosures at the front section. So the statement of service performance overview links and ties into our LTP. Flick over to each of the group of activity sections. What we've tried to achieve here is remove as much of the text as possible and communicate that with infographics throughout, just to engage the reader a bit more. I think great effort from the team in putting this together this year. So this is first year of, I guess, trialing this out, and we are looking to improve on what else can go into it for the next year's annual report.
No, that's good, Beth. And I think those infographics, when when I'm looking at them, some of them, I know that they will spark other questions within the community. They'll see that and they'll go, and I'm looking at, the 231,000 granted to community groups. People, that's going to spark a question from the public and get them engaged and well, what does that mean? And start looking at the rest of the report to find out where that is. So, no, it's good. Thanks. Anyone have any questions, or if there's any that you want to highlight there? Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, through you, me, Tracy, page 48. 22 questions.
Question.
No, I'm just saying, out of 9,000 or 11,000 people, we've got 22 questions for the survey.
Do you want to talk that through? I can see where you're looking at it. 23. You've got 23, 22.
Sorry.
We, as you know, we conduct our key research, quarterly. We do 3 a year surveys with our community. 22 questions are what link directly to a service performance measure that key research measure for us. They ask a whole lot of other questions at the same time in which they're conducting the survey, which helps us and gives us more information for the level of service chats and the long-term plans that you've been having. But that's the number of direct questions we ask in the survey that link to a KPI.
I can get.
So you asked, it's good. So you were asking this question. What was the question?
Great question like that, and I don't know. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Sarah. Are there any other questions on those service performance measures? It has been a challenging year.
Well,
Debbie, would you like to make any comment? And, especially you see a number of councils, challenges around inflation and insurance and interest. Yes.
First of all, I'd like to just really acknowledge Council, and I think you should be congratulated. It was less than 5 months ago that we were adopting the 2022 annual report. And when you adopt next week on the 29th, it will be 5 months. And to turn an annual report around in that time is phenomenal. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And I think it's probably something important to think, because usually you would be adopting this time last year and you'd have a whole year to actually prepare and pull together the annual report. And not only that, but you have actually produced a really quality document as well. And I think we've gone through it with the Infometrics, but it's something I get paid to read these reports, but I was turning pages and wanting to read more. So hopefully your community will as well. So I also want to acknowledge the work that Beth and Sarah, Raj and the team have done in the relationship between ourselves and them. I think we've had some really regular interactions, and just to make sure that we can be at this place. We worked with council to ensure that we could adopt as soon as possible after balance date. If we had waited until you did have a full set of accounts ready for us, we'd probably only just be starting the audit now. So we've been doing it side by side, which probably takes a little bit longer to do, but it does mean that you will be able to adopt earlier, which also helps when you've got a long-term plan to start planning for, as well as your business as usual. I would also just like to highlight this year, for the first time since I think 2020, I will be in a position to give an unmodified or unqualified opinion over both the financials and the non-financial performance measures. So you may recall that for those that have been around for a while, that there has been an issue in the past around counting complaints. it was a bit of a system issue, and so there was a lot of work that council had to do to get that correct. We're just in the very last stages of checking off, and council only received, I think, yesterday, the details from Palmerston North City Council, who do the after hours services. So there's still a little bit of checking around that, which will feed into here if there are any changes coming through. But that means that you will be unmodified. So my opinion will still have a qualification over the comparative, because there's no way you could go back and relook at any of that. But I think that's something to acknowledge as well. So there are a number of significant areas that we look at, but the biggest ones that really we do have a lot of focus on is the revaluation of infrastructure assets, and in particular your roading assets and your 3 water assets. We still have a bit of work that we're working through with the valuer, and just trying to close off the last little bits. So subject to us being able to clear those, then we will be in a position to issue an unmodified opinion. The other thing I just wanted to also highlight to you is that at the end of the audit, we get what's called a letter of representation, which is signed by your worship and by the chief executive, outlining that we've received everything. Within that, we will have anything that's unadjusted, any unadjusted errors, and there are some things that may be not material to adjust or not economical to adjust. At this stage, we only have 1 error on our statement schedule, potentially 2, because I found out yesterday that Risk Pool has issued a call on some historic claims. So I need to just check in with the team here to see what sort of dollars we're talking about. From what I understand from other councils is that it's not a material amount, so it's definitely not worth flowing it all back through your financials. The other unadjusted error is the Pukahi loan. And so as Beth was talking about, we've agreed that you disclose it at face value, because it's quite a process to come up with the amortised cost or the fair value. We have done an assessment based on some really rough numbers. We can't say it's robust enough to put into your accounts, but the difference is about 495,000, which is not material to adjust. So that will be sitting on the representation letter. But other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the audit process.
Thanks. Does anyone have any questions for Debbie? And please feel free to take advantage of while she's here. We really appreciate that. Or Sutherland?
One, because thanks, Mayor Tracy. Debbie, I just wasn't sure about the Pukaha. Is that the $60,000 loan that we?
Yeah, it's a 1 million.
My own head, I'll have to go and crunch the numbers, because that was quite surprising just hearing that 450,000. But I think that's probably a bit high in my own head, but I'll have a look at that. But I'm pleased that we're leaving it as is this year, and we'll work on that next year. Raj, you can help my calculations in my head.
I'm not going to attempt a calculation, but just give it a context, and Debbie can jump in. It's a disclosure, so it's a face value. It's how we disclose the value of the Pukaha loan. It doesn't change the obligations or the intent where Pukaha needs to intend to pay the interest as per agreed by agreement and repay the $1 million loan over the time. So that doesn't change. It's just an accounting adjustment that we're doing in our books to record, I guess, coming out of the standards change that we're recognizing, not at face value, not at face value or fair value, but at amortized cost.
Thanks. Making me want to get my calculator out. Council awards.
Thank you, Tracy. Mine really isn't anything to do with the content of this, Debbie, but I mean, you're never in the room when we sit here and we debate audit fees and all of that. And so I'm just going to share, because Raj and the team certainly value and appreciate, and they speak very highly of the service. But when you're standing over a barbecue sausage with ratepayers who are chewing your ear about how much money's being spent, blah, 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 and we argue around compliance and the, issues that we have to deal with. One of the things that's always concerned me is the hidden cost of this wonderful team that you refer to, putting in all of the hours that, so we only ever see an audit fee. We don't see that hidden part there. Now, I'm curious to understand, with your experience across all other councils, is there going to come a time where that it's just not viable? I mean, not that we can put a sinking lid on it, but is there a tipping point at some stage where it just isn't? We can't continue to pay for and have all of this work done to justify, as Raj rightly says, it's an assurance to the community that, we're spending their money wisely and investing it and doing the right thing and spending the money where we plan to. Is there a reality check ever going to be put in on? I'm not going to sit here and argue your audit fee. That's completely inappropriate, but it's not just your audit fee. That's the thing. I can see it in the eyes and the hard work of the financial team to be able to put all this together. It's huge. And as every other council, or they all just going, no, we better be quiet because, Sharon's opened up a hornet's nest here. Curious to understand what time do you think?
Yes, so through your worship, it is a lot of work, and you're absolutely right. You see the cost that that we charge, but the time and the costs that council staff charge or incur, probably a lot of it in their own time as well, not just in council time. And I suppose in terms of other councils, we see the same effort going into to this report for every other council as well. It is a complicated document, and you'll see that there is a lot because council has a lot of different services. You're a bit different to a business who might have one or two revenue streams and activities. You've got a lot, and you are using ratepayers' money, so there is that accountability factor back to the community. There is a lot of legislation around, requirements around that. There are additional disclosures that councils have to have that a normal business wouldn't necessarily have to have, and that's all to do with the transparency of the I suppose the stewardship that council has had over the ratepayers' money. So I'm not aware that there's any look to say can we cut that back. I think because it is such a key accountability back to the community. So and this is the message that you give back after you've prepared the long-term plan. So but I do acknowledge that it is a big cost. Yeah.
Thanks, Debbie, and thanks, Councillor Wards, because poor Debbie is probably, had many conversations with me, and I think you can see the level that we've changed in our document and how we're trying to show that value and get that understanding. And that's what I've asked from audit as well, because it is nearly 1% of our rates, and every council around this table can tell you exactly what that figure is, and it's something that we focus on. So, how, I guess for us, our next challenge is how do we show that value, because there is a perception there, that council's not transparent or council, we're highly audited, but how do we actually get those messages across and I guess make people excited about that, and very pleased to know that how well the team's done. That should give the community great confidence. So Yeah, certainly acknowledge the amount of time that the entire team spends in here. Yes, we pay that audit fee, but actually, the pressure on those teams, and you've heard, and I was really pleased to hear and Sarah talk about in their finance meeting prior, that, you know, doing those budgets, you know, she's sitting down with the waters team, and, you know, you've got finance across everything. So it's a really good space to be in, but certainly does add some pressure. Yeah, so thank you.
No, you're only the messenger.
Okay, are there no further questions? Sarah?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to congratulate Beth on how she's managed this annual report. It hasn't been a straightforward one, to say the least, which I think Debbie's kind of alluded to. You've had change in accounting standards. You've had both myself and Raj take a little holiday in between. It's countless hours that go unnoticed. Whew. So I just wanted to acknowledge that in a public setting.
Thanks, Beth. And also, got bad news for you. And I think you might have to go home and tell Corey that you might have raised his name in a public meeting as well. But fully support that, but also acknowledge the support of Sarah and of Raj to that whole team. So we really, really do appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. And I don't think we're working on making finance funds so that everybody understands it and maybe gets as passionate about it as you are. So we're very, very lucky to have you on the team.
Thank you. And just to add to that, I just want to, it's a team effort. So it's 100% due to the great team that we have got at council that has got us to this point. So yeah, I just want to make sure that the whole team is acknowledged. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. It's really good. I just want to add, I guess, to what, and I think what I'm proud of on top, what we talked about, I think Debbie mentioned it, that even though we had a very short time frame to pull the annual report together, a very short time frame Beth and team had, they improved the report. So it wasn't cut and paste, you know. So to me, that they took the time and effort to say, no, it's not going to be cut and paste. It's going to be better than what we did last year. So I think that's something that I'm really proud of, that the team just didn't, you know, yeah, it's all right, short of time and just get it out of the way. They took pride in the document, and I think this what I think that's why I think sometimes Sarah. I remember Sarah said there. I think when we had the first qualification, you almost teared, and I think the reason why finance, and I think most of the staff here, is they take real pride on their work, and I think that's come across in what Beth and Sarah has done with their report, improved in Carsten too. So I think it's really a proud moment for us to sit back and say the staff are stretched, they are really busy, but look at still what they're trying to do to make things better. So I think that's really good, and I'm really proud of that. So thank you, Beth.
Thanks, and I think we will be incredibly pleased to see an unmodified report next year, because, you know, some of it we know that it is around transparency. Some of it, sometimes it just seems such a lot of work over those recordings, but we've learnt from it and excited for that for next year. So thank you to everyone. We've just got a recommendation on page 3. So the recommendation that the report from the Senior Financial Accountant dated the 17th of November 2023 concerning the annual report adoption be received, that the Audit and Risk Committee recommend that the Mayor and Chief Executive be delegated the authority to make any minor changes requested by Audit New Zealand and to sign the Statement of Compliance and Responsibility that is contained within the annual report for the year ending 30th of June 2023, and that the 22-23 annual report be adopted in accordance with Section 98 of the Local Government Act 2002. And I'll take Councillor Long and Holy Councillor Chase. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We might have to go to electronic voting. This will be on. Right, thank you, and thank you very much, Debbie, again for taking the time to come over and speak to us, because the comments that you've made, again, provide that level, to say that actually this is what you see. This is what you see from our teams, and this is the level of confidence that our public should be having in this work and in our teams. So thank you very much for that. It meant a lot. Okay, I will close our meeting with our whakatauaki. Let the winds of the Ruahine and Tararua give you strength. Let the waters of the Manawatu nourish you. For we are the Pounamu of Te Tāpiri Nui o Whātonga. Kia ora.